Oh, your martini swirl was very well timed there, or a martini sip, I guess, and swirl. Well done, Greg. That was very. Do another one for us because it was so nice. Oh, I
Oh,
hear
that's
myself in some of
me.
this. So that looks
I'm
like a
so
delicious drink.
sorry.
It's okay. It's okay. This is a miracle we're on the air right now because 2 minutes ago, all sorts of other things were happening. What's the drink of the night,
Yeah.
Greg?
The drink of the night is a Manhattan, as per usual.
As per usual,
Yeah.
it's very
What are
good.
you drinking,
Yeah.
LB?
Actually, I'm having a Manhattan because I knew you were having a Manhattan, and so I'm
Wow.
having a Manhattan as well.
How's your Manhattan, LB?
Oh, I don't have a Manhattan. That's not right.
It's delicious.
Oh, well.
Where are you, Greg? That's not your usual bookshelf behind you.
I'm away. I'm away for the weekend, Zev.
Oh, okay.
At an undisclosed location
At
that
a
looks
secret
very
location.
much like it looks like Greg Smith's basement a little bit. So I'm kind of pleased with it. That's not where I am, but
but good tease. We won't ask. We won't press any further. LB, you've got some big news for us coming later in the show because officially we're going to hear a brand new trailer for Under the World. Sorry, I forget. I don't know why I am so messed up this morning.
Oh,
this evening.
It's okay. It's all right. It's all right. For the world beneath,
the world
right?
beneath.
The
thank
series,
you.
The new audio series, and we're gonna give you guys the release date, and you'll see that I am going to win that wager that we were talking about last Friday of who's gonna get to the finish line first. Is it me?
Wow, I don't know.
Is it Marion? It's me. I win.
Okay. I don't know.
Do you
Netanyahu,
think? Do you think Netanyahu's going? I'm not sure he is yet. I think he's still trying. So
I don't think he's ever going to go.
Yeah.
I think they're going to have to carpet over him. He'll just be in the chair and they'll just sit on top of him and keep.
Yeah.
Doing the stuff,
he's trying to do it January the 6th just for them in Israel. Although it's a bit, it's a bit iterative, I guess, of what we've just been through. You see, little Roger Stone. He's our little mascot tonight.
I saw that.
There he is. He was in the news a lot this week. We did a show about him on Tuesday about the case against him and the insurrection. And then yesterday there was more news about him and being now tied to two of the 3%ers, a third group of militia that we haven't spoken about before in the recent past, now tied to Roger Stone for January the 6th, because that was just a day for tourists to travel through the capital. So that's going to come up a little later on in the show. But it was, speaking of Roger Stone, almost 49 years ago to the day that the Washington Post published a story that said that one of Nixon's staffers, full-time staffers, was actually part of the Watergate operation to break into Watergate. Here's a story from a different newspaper, because I don't have the exact story from the Washington Post, but it was all about this phenomenal thing that happened a year earlier. The actual burglary happened a year earlier, but now the Nixon aide was being held as part of that. And I'll read you a little bit here. Disclosures that a salaried Nixon campaign security expert was one of the 5 men arrested during a break-in at the Democratic National Committee headquarters has prompted Democratic accusations, of political espionage and Republican details of something, which I can't reach, of involvement. So there we are. We're looking back almost 50 years ago, and I know that's a significant time for both of us, because you and me, Greg, we were not even alive. However, maybe LP was.
Oh shit! Well, does he have a? Is he Joey Sox Gigliani? Like, what's the last name there?
I got the actual name of the dude. Hang on 1 second. I got to lean forward in here to actually read it. Barker. No, can it be? No, can't be.
Okay.
It's Cuban born. Yeah, Cuban born Bernard Barker. So there you go.
The most astonishing thing about that whole Watergate thing is how unnecessary it was. I mean, have you looked at the vote totals for 1972? This shit was not close. He did not need to be in there. It was a fucking. Yeah. He beat the crap out of McGovern. It wasn't close. This is like when Belichick did Spygate to videotape the practices for the New York Jets. Guys, you're the Patriots. You don't need to videotape the New York Jets. I mean, have you learned nothing?
True,
from
but I
Watergate?
think I love that Jets reference because you know how much I love the baseball. But if we could get back to Watergate, what I'm amazed at is
I
that
love it. I understood that. That's good for me. I need to drink for that one.
Here you have a drink. So almost 50 years later, here we are, and we have another scandal involving Roger Stone periphery, maybe, but certainly Donald Trump now spying on the House Intelligence Committee. And possibly spying on, not possibly, spying on many journalists. And we can call it many other things. We can call it metadata. We can call it the Justice Department inquiring or, whatever you want to call it. But really, it's spying. I mean, there's no other way to describe what was going on. Any amount of information that could have been gotten by the Justice Department on behalf of Donald Trump could have embarrassed or derailed some of these politicians, could have really hurt some of these journalists, but also could have derailed the investigation into that impeachment. So, Greg, I know you have a lot of thoughts about this, but it seems to me like this is probably as big a scandal as Watergate because it's very similar. I mean, there's no physical break-in per se, but it's, what's the difference between breaking in and just spying on somebody because you can do it electronically now?
Okay, Greg. Go, Greg.
Okay. First of all, this is orders of magnitude worse than Watergate.
Right.
What Trump has done here is weaponize the DOJ to go after his political enemies, which is something that we all were afraid would happen. And I can't stress enough how close we were to utter disaster. If Trump had won that election, we would not be safe to even have this show. We would probably have to leave the country because the journalists and the critics and the dissidents would be next on the list of people to be rounded up as we veer towards autocracy. Okay. And this is what my thought today. I had this thought yesterday, actually. Not that it matters. Not that anyone's keeping track on when my thoughts are had. But everything that's happened has been such a slow, like boiling frog kind of thing that it's really remarkable to go back and look at what's happened. And sometimes I think, okay, what if somebody was beamed here from Mars and they were a reporter from Mars writing about this? Or what if it was an American journalist reporting on what has happened from, in somewhere like Angola or Mozambique or one of these, more corrupt countries? You have, in 2016, you have an election between a prohibitive favorite and a guy with years of underworld criminal ties. And the
Born
good
into
guy...
Born into it.
Okay, corrupt as they come.
Very different.
And that guy loses. He loses the popular vote by almost 3 million votes. Resounding, pretty decisively, he loses the popular vote. But because of some bullshit rule that almost no one can explain, he gets to be president. So right off the bat, if this was Angola, we would be like, electoral what college? What the fuck? You know?
It's expected
so that's
maybe
the
over
first
there.
thing. Okay. The fact that he's president at all, we sort of we all did that thing in U.S. history at sophomore year in high school where we learned about the electoral college. Well, but think about it here. He lost by 2.8 million votes, and he got to be president anyway. That is batshit. Okay,
but that is accounted for. I mean, that is at least within the constitutional rules. It's not. It's
then
not.
He goes in. Then he wins the electoral college, but because of very, very slim margins in states that he sort of bragged about, maybe he was going to win beforehand.
Yeah.
And then the Russians helped. There's this whole tech side of things, right? Yeah. It is. If this happened in Angola, we would say that shit was rigged. It was awful, but it's not Angola. This is the United States of fucking America. Nothing like that could ever happen here. Then he goes into the White House. He installs a fucking oil CEO to be Secretary of State. Yeah. What immediately follows is that 2/3 of the diplomats are gone. So all that institutional memory, all that experience,
State Department, the entire State Department,
gone. Yeah. Okay, the State Department is fucking gutted. He puts Rick Grinnell, about as corrupt, a loser, unqualified schmuck bag, tool of some Moldovan oligarch. What was he ambassador to Germany?
He was the first ambassador, and then he.
Not a joke.
It's not a joke. I mean, none of the last 4 years have been a joke, but you got to laugh.
Okay?
You got to laugh. Otherwise, what?
His Twitter profile looks like, and his Tinder page or his Grindr page are the same. It's insane. And again, if this is Angola, we're like, what the actual fuck, right?
Yeah.
Okay, not only that, then he gets this Mnuchin guy with his weird girlfriend. There's photos of them parading around Fort Knox, holding up $100 bill sheets, like he's a villain in a bad Batman movie that he himself might have produced.
Yeah,
okay, that's treachery. And in the Department of Justice, racist Nazi elf Jeff Sessions, followed by Whitaker, that toilet salesman for people who supposedly are well hung but aren't. Right? Who want to pretend to be. Okay. And then goddamn motherfucking Bill Barr, one of the most corrupt people that has ever drawn breath.
Yeah.
If this happened in any other country, if this happened in Mongolia, or if this happened in Russia even, we would be like, this is insane, guys. This is nuts. But this happened here. And now everything that comes out, we see more and more evidence. Hey, the mobbed up president who stole the election, whether the laws, people are going to fact check me here. Well, the Electoral College is, dates back to the. Yeah, we know what the fucking Electoral College is. We know why it exists. Okay, it really exists so that to prevent people from voting. It was the original voter suppression law.
Yeah,
the Electoral College existed because if, God forbid, the people voted for someone that the elite in this country didn't like, the elite people could get together and be like, no.
It was a check and balance. It was a check and balance. I mean, that was a way of doing it.
Check and balance. It was a gatekeeper thing.
Yeah, it was a gatekeeper. But let's say they weren't quite ready for the full Monty. They were just going like, okay,
not a check and balance. Check and balance is a totally different thing. This is a gatekeeper thing. This is like saying, oh wow, you won. Remember when the mafia was in charge of who won the McDonald's lottery? This is like, oh, someone who's not a mafioso won the McDonald's lottery. Guess what? You're not allowed to win because of some technicality.
So nothing's changed.
That's what this is.
That's the way it's been. It's been the system.
It's baked into the Constitution, but it's still rigged. Sorry.
Yeah, it's true. But it's in the Constitution.
All I'm saying, and now
they did agree to it. They did agree to it. That was their thing.
Every day we find out more and more stuff. Trump did this. Trump weaponized the DOJ. Of course he fucking weaponized the DOJ. Did we think that Bill Barr wasn't in there weaponizing the DOJ?
But I mean,
by the way, his fucking daughter was at Treasury weaponizing the Treasury, and his son-in-law was somewhere else gathering it.
Was in the White House.
Vincent, not any old area of the Treasury, but the financial crimes.
This is bullshit. This is rank corruption that in any other country in the world, we here in the land of the free would be fucking laughing at.
It's not even as bad as Banana Republic, because in Banana Republics they actually don't have the capacity to do this. In the United States, they can actually call up Apple and demand that they want all the metadata for everyone that in Schiff's entire orbit might have called. I mean, that is a lot of information that's unnecessary, and there's no reason for it. There's no predicate for this. You don't just go ahead and it's like, oh yeah, sure, I want those metadata. For someone who's investigating the president of the United States, I mean, you at least are concerned about the optics.
One more thing about that, by the way, they didn't fucking find anything.
Of course, there was nothing there.
We would know. So all these people, Schiff and Swalwell and everybody else, they're fucking clean. Okay,
of course, they wouldn't have done that.
As a goddamn whistle. Yeah. All right. So everybody trying to put a hit on Swalwell because he once talked to a Chinese national at a party. Shut the fuck up.
Whatever. Okay, that guy's. I mean.
Well, but here's what it got reduced to. Then we got the mob nicknames: Pencilneck, Schiff. It gets reduced. It gets reduced to the mobsterism, right? From that whatever he is.
Whatever he is.
That thing that we're still contending with. I don't know. Grant,
you know what I want to say?
Grant, I lost a little piece. Okay. I had little pieces. I should have my notebook with me. Okay, Judy, could you
It's
ask?
in Manhattan. That's the problem.
I can show you a couple of interesting things that I think are really worth it, and then you can
let's
do your
do it.
rant in a
Let's do it.
second. So the one thing that I'm really interested in is not so much that I want to hear from Barr, although I do want to hear from Barr, and I want to hear from everybody else, is I really want to hear from this man. I want to hear, not this man, sorry. Where's my Rod Rosenstein photo? There's a Rod Rosenstein photo in here somewhere. But I don't have it right now available to me. But there's a big question mark about this guy.
Snake.
Remember this guy was telling us that they never would have spied on and never even thought about spying on the Trump administration, because how wrong that would be to spy on the Trump administration. Meanwhile, they were spying as the Democratic Intelligence Committee chairman. I mean, it's just insane that they were allowing themselves that double standard.
From mothers at the same time. Rod Rosenstein was signing off on nursing children, nursing babies, infants from their mothers, while at the same fucking time, he's going in there and spying on members of Congress, weaponizing the Department of Justice to do that.
Are you telling me he didn't know? He didn't know that Schiff was being spied on as he was the boss of the Mueller report? Of course he knew that Schiff was being spied on as he was the boss of the Mueller report.
Pull him in.
And how did Trump know that Schiff might have been leaking stuff? I mean, he wasn't necessarily. But remember, he went on this big thing that he was like, oh, Schiff's leaking, Schiff's leaking. I mean, Schiff might have spoken to a New York Times reporter or something. That's not necessarily a leak. That's just saying, you know, here's a New York Times reporter that I'm talking to. But the spin that
we ended up, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you go ahead.
I want to say we ended up, not just the spin, we ended up with the breach of a skiff. Right? We ended up, because of this, we ended up with Matt Gaetz, the child sex trafficker, and God only knows what else crimes that that man's going to end up having, allegedly. Right? We end up with Matt Gaetz. I'm being good now.
The Manhattan's really good tonight.
We ended with Gaetz, and we end up with that crew of Republicans storming a skiff with their freaking phones with them, right? It's violating all this stuff, and the Capitol Police not knowing what to do because, just let them in. No one had ever really tested the Capitol Police in that way. And that breach of that skiff was it was like, we have all these beta tests, right? That was a beta test for the insurrection. It really was.
Yeah.
It was really some like little ground plane. But can we just storm this? Can we come in? If we do it all out in the open, and if we make it a big spectacle, can we violate the laws on the sacred ground of Congress itself, and not have any consequences come our way?
Yeah.
So let's not forget that while Rod Rosenstein is signing off on, let's take babies away from nursing mothers, and let's and let's and not having any moral compass, not anything, not any sense of service to the American people. He's just in there, trying to save his ass like a mobster. That's what mobsters do. I know you guys, people don't like it when I use that term, but I see no difference there, because there's nothing coming in the way of that man just being transactional down to his core, and then his only concern is that it's for himself and for his reputation, or what are people going to say about me? It was so narcissistic. That scene in the Comey rule, I know about this. Okay, Greg knows too. You heard it too, Greg. That was a real scene. The people who were involved in that said, yep, Rod was crying for himself. So
you know what's amazing to me is that we're managing to do all of this
in front of that committee
and not investigate Devin Nunes and not investigate Kash Patel, who are running around doing real espionage. I mean, real, provable espionage. They didn't touch that. Nothing. Meanwhile, the head of the Intelligence Committee is having their metadata taken, and journalists doing their job. You carry this out a little longer, and what's the next step? Say he gets reelected. And does he then bother with even asking the Justice Department, or does he just get him automatically that he gets everyone's metadata that he wants? Or does he just throw people in jail, or does he just censor people? Or where does this end for the future, still electable? This guy's still around as a potential candidate in 24. This guy who broke the law, whose entire, go ahead.
Is there a memo? Maybe if the Justice Department has a memo that says he's allowed to do those things, maybe we can do it, because the whole fucking country runs because some fucking egghead wrote a memo in 1975.
Right. Yeah, which
It's
doesn't
ridiculous.
apply. Hey, speaking of the Justice Department, I saw Merrick Garland actually addressing the nation today, and I was like, where did I hear calls for Merrick Garland to address the nation? And I thought of you, LB, first, then I thought about Greg Olear, because I think it was on this show first that maybe you started raising that, where is Mr. Garland, and why is he not talking to the public? And I realized today he's a little bit nervous speaking in public, and he did a really good address about the voters' rights and how they're going to be investigating voters' rights. And I was impressed by the fact that he did it, because it was really reassuring and it actually made some news. And there was a feeling around certainly the cable channels today that's, hey, progress. Look at him taking a tough stand on all these voters' rights. So I was pleased to see him out in public, and I'm giving you all the credit, LB, for that.
I'm so glad you're giving me credit for that. And I'm hearing that my audio is terrible. I have people delivering notes to me saying that my audio is terrible.
Your audio is not great. No, neither of your audio is great, but I was assuming you're on vacation.
What is going on? Let me try to fix the audio.
We can take a break if you want to. We can come back and figure it out. Maybe that's a good idea if I just got to pull this up quickly. This is what happens on live, whatever this is, television-ish. That's better. Oh my gosh, it's so much better. I feel like I want to start the show again.
Oh, I'm so sorry, everybody.
Oh, it's so much better.
I had the wrong setting and I didn't know it.
Well, there you go. Oh, I feel so much better now.
I'm so sorry, everybody.
Wait, is my audio bad? I feel like
your audio's a little bit wonky too. Actually, it sounds a little compressed in a weird way. But it's a Friday night, so I assumed people were just on the way.
It's a bigger space here. It's a bigger space. The voice is echoey, and that's just what happens.
Let me again, though, LB, now that I can hear you properly, say
yes.
Good work on getting Merrick Garland to get out in front of the public today.
Yeah, I don't know if I did that.
I actually think you might have. I mean, I don't even might have started it. I mean, I heard other people talk about it.
Because, and I think that I do think I'm getting a little cat out of the bag. Just sort of watching him as someone who writes character. That's all I do is write character for decades and decades and decades. And you kind of can pick up on people's tells. I'm a terrible poker player. I wish I could figure out how to make that work.
I bet you're a good poker player.
I show way too many. I have 8,000 tells, all day long. I'm so, everything's so open. But watching him, I was like, I think this guy, he cares a lot about how he's perceived. He does.
Yes.
That's meaningful to him.
Yes.
Whereas Barr didn't give a shit what he made. He's like, I don't care. I'll be the devil. Fine. If that gets me what I want, fine. Merrick Garland cares a lot about how he's perceived. And so I do think that we have a voice with this Justice Department and with this Attorney General, where if we raise it and say, look, just talk to us. You don't have to compromise anything, but we need you to come out in front of us and talk to us about what is going on. And I think in ways like that, as we raise our voices as the American people, we and it's appropriate. We're supposed to do that.
Yes,
that's there's a constitutional protection where we question authority and we call them to the carpet to speak to us. They must speak to us. And so I'm pleased that he's talking now. And I think
it was very reassuring. It was really reassuring, especially on the voters' rights.
Yes.
Because we hadn't heard him. We haven't heard him, but we hadn't heard him on this topic at all. So having him talk about the voters' rights issues and how aggressively they were going to prosecute any attempt to make the next elections fraudulent in any way, including the audits, was very specific and I thought very telling and he did a good job. Good. I mean, he's a little bit nervous, but I'm sure it's his first time out. Next time, he'll be more confident. But he's such a great guy, and in terms of his career and his pedigree, you'd imagine he would be okay talking in front of a camera, but he was a little bit nervous.
Well, the thing is, I mean, he's been a judge in that insular bubble where he's the head honcho for such a long time now that coming outside of that space has got to be a little bit of a wake-up call.
Right, judges don't give press conferences.
Yeah, let's get. I want to set a couple things straight right now because there seems to be some confusion over this. First of all, thank you, Merrick Garland, for speaking out. That was a good start. We want more of it.
More.
I want more about the insurrection. I want more about the Trump stuff. I want more. I want a press conference every fucking week until we get some goddamn indictments. That's what we need. I think he's a guy that seems like he's able to learn, and I agree with you, LB. He is motivated or influenced by public opinion more than other people. And I think we are. I think the influence.
Self-aware. Yeah.
I think he's aware of how he's perceived. So first of all, kudos to him. Thank you for doing what we asked you to do. Please do more of it. The second thing is there's all this confusion about, well, how dare people take on Merrick Garland? That's unpatriotic, some morons say. No, it's not unpatriotic. In fact, it is the highest patriotism because we're doing what's required of us as citizens in the goddamn fucking Constitution. So anybody that says that any criticism of a government official is unpatriotic is a fucking moron. I just want to get that on the ground.
Especially at times like
this.
Not
only that, really if these are the times, anybody pumping that into the discourse, let me be very clear here. Anyone pumping that into the discourse at this point in our history, it's not really the history, it's the present moment, but in what we're facing, anyone saying, how dare you question, or you just don't understand the way things work. Anybody doing that, everyone should have 8,000 red flags coming up the back of the hairs of your neck. That is what fascists do. That is, and people can think that they can think that they're wrapped in an American flag and somehow they understand it all because they have their Pacer account. No, you don't.
Right.
Stop attacking fellow citizens and aim your fire at the people that we must have hold others in power accountable. And right now, the institution charged more than any other because of the corruption you were just talking about, Zev, because of Bill Barr, because of Rod Rosenstein, because of what happened under the evil Keebler, right? The institution that we have to put all of our attention on and say, we are going to make sure that you hold the powerful accountable is the Department of Justice. Don't get any of that twisted.
And we need to be saying right now to Merrick Garland, you got a clean house. I mean, those people who approved all this wiretapping and all these metadata transfers for individuals that they should never, ever have approved, those people have to go. There's no space in the Justice Department if those people are still there. And it includes, by the way, about 5 of the most senior people at the Department of Justice. So this is a really huge scandal. It's going to radically change everything about the DOJ, and maybe that's a good thing. We need it. We got to take a break.
One more thing, quick, Zev. I'm sorry, just real quick before we do that about Merrick Garland. Nobody on this show is criticizing him for the job he's doing. I'm very sure that that place is a fucking cesspool, and that Bill Barr is basically the last tenant who trashed the place, and there's black mold, and there's I get it. No one's saying that Merrick Garland is corrupt or anything. Everybody that I've talked to thinks the guy's great. I am inclined to agree. But what we are asking for is communication, which he gave us and which we want more of. That's all that we want. Talk to us. Yeah. Thank you for talking to us.
And take some action. Coming up, we're going to get you a trailer from LB's new show, The World Beneath. That's happening in just a minute. We'll be right back. Plus a lot more on January the 6th. And that is coming up right after this break on Narrative. Now that summer is almost here and COVID is almost gone, this may be a good time to get some things off your to-do list, like maybe getting life insurance. My mom is really good with finances, and she's always telling me, what about life insurance? It's so important. And I can tell you that Policy Genius is a great place to get life insurance because you can compare quotes from over a dozen top insurers all in one place. Why compare? Well, you can save as much as 50% or more of life insurance by comparing those quotes, and you could save $1,300 or more per year on life insurance by using Policy Genius to compare those policies for you. The licensed experts at Policy Genius work for you, not the insurance companies, so you can trust them to help you navigate every step of the shopping and buying process. That kind of service has earned Policy Genius a 5-star rating across thousands of reviews on Trustpilot and Google. This is how it works. Getting started is really easy. First, you head to policygenius.com, and in minutes, you can work out how much life insurance coverage you need and compare personalized quotes to find your best price. When you're ready to apply, the Policy Genius team will handle all the paperwork and scheduling for you. Policy Genius never sells your information to other companies, and that means you don't have to worry about your privacy, and they don't add extra fees. Policy Genius. Head to policygenius.com to get started right now. Policy Genius. When it comes to insurance, it's nice to get it right. Now that summer's almost here, and we've had enough of that. So we'll have a brand new update, new trailer from LB's new show, The World Beneath, coming up. And, maybe LB's going to be able to tell us a little bit more about that. Wait a second. Where are you guys? Hang on. I got to find you. Well, I noticed something has changed. I've noticed something. I wasn't invited. I mean, come on. I wasn't invited. Oh, I'm like a few hours away. I'm so bummed.
Are you allowed to come here? I mean, I didn't think you could cross the border, man.
I don't know. It's a good question. I wonder if they'll let me back in. But there you go. So explain to people.
This is a different camera. Oh, I don't know about this camera, Greg. There's my. Okay, wait, hang on.
It's for Greg's very,
Well, I have this ring light in my fucking glasses, so
look at how much younger you look. Look at how fabulous Greg Olear looks.
Doesn't he look great with that camera and that? Yeah. Oh, it's a very good look. So wait a second. I'm completely jealous. You're both at LB's place, and you're drinking Manhattans. And what's been going on? How's it going?
Sorry, my glasses. I left them up there. We had to run to other ends of the whole thing.
I have to change graphics now, and I don't have those. I'm going to have to figure it out.
Oh, okay. I'm down in the basement. I didn't mean to put Greg in the basement, but it was where we knew the sound wouldn't. But it's nice down here. It's really cool down here, which is good.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're at. I have a character that I write about on the Twitter feed of the Sweet Grandmother in New York, and so we are at the Sweet Grandmother in New York, who's actually my mother. But she is a grandmother, so she is very much the Sweet Grandmother in New York, and she is from Jersey. And this is where I get my mouth, everybody, just so you know.
Jersey.
Yeah.
Jill Biden's also from Jersey, isn't she? No, she's from the Bronx, I think. Anyhow, I was going to say that because there's a teaser head to the Queen thing, but then I got distracted. I still want to hear about what you've been doing all day. Like, has it just been like gossiping and having fun?
I took a nap.
And you guys have met before, haven't you?
No.
First, oh my God. So, what was it like? I mean, do you have video? Can I see what it looked like? Was there like a reveal? I want to know.
I'll let Greg share because he came into a whole family, right? So, and we're pretty vibrant, as you can imagine. So, and then I went and took a nap and left him to my family.
I got hustled in pool by the silent one. I did.
You did?
Yeah.
Did you get any good gossip?
Did he hustle you? Yeah.
He didn't hustle. No, he didn't hustle.
So Greg, tell me the whole thing. I want to hear. What was your first reaction? Was LB everything you thought she'd be?
Everything and more, man. No, it's great.
How tall is LB? Is my question.
She's like 6'4". It's really crazy. I come up to like here.
I am taller than Greg. I noticed I am a little taller than you, but I was barefoot. So wait till I get those heels on. Then it's
how
it's
tall
a little
are you?
much. It's a little much.
How tall are you?
I'm 5'9". It's not that.
But with heels. With heels,
I'm 6 feet.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, plus.
So
you too. You and Marco Rubio.
Is it okay if we just keep the stream up all night long and we could just all be voyeurs on your?
We could play pool. We could have a good time. The dogs could come down. My dad could. He gave Greg a tour of his Shakespeare garden, which was quite lovely.
Nice.
The geese are back on the pond.
Oh, that was. Can I talk about that for a minute? Because
sure.
We go on this lovely place that he's created this these garden beds and planted plants that correspond to various Shakespeare play mentions, and there's 3 of them, and I was like, so 3 like tragedy, comedy, history, and I was like joking, and he's like, LB's like, no, yeah, that's exactly what.
That's it. Yeah.
So depending on your mood, you can go to different parts, different gardens. You can go and hang out at the tragedy garden if you're feeling a little down, or if you reverse.
It's just what he's developing is quite. So my father, and when everyone learns my name, then we can talk about this. Is the twin brother of Unc,
who folks on Twitter know because
yes,
Greg has interviewed him and he's on. So they're twins. My dad is, and Unc is a, he's a spy. He's an NSA guy. He's not. We put him in that big category, but he had quite the career at the agency for years and years. And
at the NSA, right? We're saying
at the NSA, yeah, at the agency, and has helped us on the show a lot in terms of just really, he's very humble man, but when he picks up the phone and says, "Hey, you're gonna talk to my niece here for her show," it's been amazing. Everyone's like, "Okay, we'll do it." I'm like, really? Oh wow. So that's Ugg, and my dad. So Ugg went that way. He went with the agency, went into intelligence and service. And my father became a minister, but not after he was a Shakespearean scholar and professor. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah,
that's where you learned how to write. Where you got your
in a related
skills.
story, there's a lot of books. There's a lot of books in this house.
There's a lot of books, and most of the books are gone. He really, I was shocked. He got rid of all his books. My dad is amazing in that he got a Kindle. This is like 15 years ago now, or 10, whenever those came out, and he was like, oh, I can have all my books on here, and he got rid of his books. If we had to move, there was a moving van just for books, just so everyone can kind of grasp what it was like for me in my childhood. Every single wall in our home was a bookshelf covered with books, and there were books stacked in the court. It was just books. He was a scholar. And so he was so thrilled. I thought the books were so important, which they are, of course, but it was what was inside of them. And my dad, this gives you insight into my dad, he goes, well, that was a technology. It lasted a really long time, and now this is the new technology. So he kept his collections and got rid of everything else. And but Greg is still saying that it's still a lot.
It's funny things of technology as books as technology. Of course, it is. They were are.
Yeah.
Yet and they last longer certainly than your Kindle or anything digital. So even though they seem to be less useful, they're not as books seem to last longer. And we've got so much more show to do. So still coming up, we're going to talk about The World Beneath. We're going to hear more about your weekend. But let's talk about January 6th for a little bit here. So, on the Tuesday show, you could really confuse me with all the graphics. Everything I normally set up has names attached to it, but now everyone is in a different location. So I'm going to get this right.
Sorry. I'm so sorry.
On Tuesday's show, we spoke about Roger Stone, of course, and all his connections to the various things that happened on January the 6th. For example, he's obviously tied into the Trump campaign and MAGA. His ex-wife was one of the people responsible for Women for Trump, one of the organizers of that event. He's, of course, tied to Alex Jones of InfoWars. The Oath Keepers seem to be his personal security detail. The Proud Boys seem to be his personal security detail. He's somehow involved in Q because his name shows up in every QAnon Twitter chart that we analyze. And now we can add officially for the first time the 3%ers, which were added as part of a indictment yesterday. So now there's 2 3%ers that are indicted, and these are the dudes. Here's one, Russell Taylor. Oh, I mean, I don't know. He's a son of an Orange County billionaire. I don't know, something.
Wait. Did you spell that right, or is it a typo? Does he spell Russell with one L?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe I got it wrong. I think I copied it directly out of maybe I spelled it wrong, but I don't think so. I think that's how he spelled it. It could have been a typo. I'll double check, or maybe someone can correct it.
It's basically his name is almost. It may as well be Russia Taylor. I mean, come on.
It may as well be. And then there's another dude. This guy, he's a yoga instructor. I got to do a couple of things here. He's a yoga instructor, and here it's coming. I apologize. Here we go. And
the suspense is killing me here.
Right, we'll just keep everyone waiting for a little longer. There's Alan Hostetter. He's number 2 from the He's a full-on yoga instructor amongst being a militia member, and a guy who said some people at the highest levels need to be made an example of with an execution or 2 or 3, referring to his involvement
How
on
very
January
Stalin
6th.
of him.
Very Stalin of him. I spent a little bit of time actually listening to his podcast, because he does these insane podcasts that are just impossible to follow. I mean, if you listen to one of these MAGA podcasts where they're like layering on theory after theory after theory, and it just makes it's impossible to understand it. I mean, I listened to this one thing 4 times today.
There's no reason to continue. It's just garbage. But it is about, again, speaking in code, speaking into the listening of people who are deep into the propaganda channels and have built this mythology. And then notice the semiotics of this stuff, of the guy with the flag and then this guy. Everything is about being really cinematic, capturing a moment, almost being mythical creatures in and of themselves. It's a cosplay that's happening here. It's almost like you can draw a straight line, and I apologize to, and I was fellow Comic-Con buddies, but this is what it is. It's tapping into a need to play at something. And what happens when you're operating out of fantasy like this on some level is that there's not a sense that there's any responsibility. Remember when Donald, everything was like, and even with, the hamburger hillbilly lady, what was her name? That was the press conference lady. Sarah Huckabee hamburger. Yeah, the hamburger. Yeah. So when the hamburger was talking about, she would always say, oh, he was just joking. They were just joking. You just don't get it. We're just all playing at this. This is our game. This is our play. Mm-hmm. This is all fun. We're having a picnic at the Capitol. We're on it. We're tourists. We're playing. It's all just imagine. This is there, and they're entertaining themselves. It's a cultural thing for these folks.
Absolutely.
And they cast themselves into a mythology, and the mythology is very complex, and it can change at any minute. But those are the layers that you're talking about. That's all about world building. It's crappy world building. I do world building for a living.
But they did it.
Crap. But Steve Bannon was the king of crap world building and screenwriting, by the way. He was the worst screenwriter I ever encountered in my life.
It's interesting you bring up his name, because I'm going to bring him up in a second. So having listened to this guy's podcast, there is one thing I sort of deduced out of a few episodes, and this comes up again. The thing that MAGA is motivated by is that they believe that the Democrats are going to turn America into communist China. I mean, that's their number one sort of fear in the world, that, oh my gosh, here it comes communist China. We've got to stop the communists, got to stop the communists, we've got to stop the communists. Which is interesting because, in fact, when you look at the people surrounding the Trump campaign, they all have pretty close ties to China. I mean, it's very easy to find, quite a few people related to China, like all these people related to China. Everyone's from Eric Prince to Steve Bannon to Adelson to the Kushners and his daughter Ivanka and Murdoch and his ex-wife, Chinese spy Wendy Dang, and the Proud Boys who got money from China.
It's like they're projecting. It's very strange.
It is kind of interesting, right?
What they're doing onto the guys that they are their opponents. It's weird.
Very, very well done. Well done. Very smart. You get good points today, because you're obviously surrounded by smart people tonight.
I am. That is true.
But it's not. It's an important point, because the thing that they fear the most is actually the thing that funds them. And Democrats, on the other hand, believe that they're worried that the MAGA crowd is going to turn America into Russian dictatorship or Russian-style dictatorship. Now, it's interesting, because guess what? These two people happen to be allied to each other. So if you were trying to divide America into, which someone has done pretty successfully, it wouldn't be a bad idea to have one side say that they're worried about them turning into Russia, and the other side saying they're turning into China. And I was just struck by this thing today, and I was like, well, that's a really interesting thing. What they've done is basically split us ideologically, and it's worked. We're all the one thing I will say about Mr. Hostetler or Mr. Taylor over here is that they seem to be very patriotic. They care a lot about America. They really, really care that America survives, and they care that America survives as a democracy, not as a communist dictatorship, as an actual democracy. I was really heartened by the fact that they did that. They do that, and they're crazy enough to even go to the insurrection and try to stop the vote from happening.
That's not democracy. Here's where
that is
here's
not
where
democracy.
It gets fucked up, right? Is that
but they're brainwashed.
That's very interesting, Zeb. I've actually never heard anybody make this point.
I don't think so.
By bifurcating the villains, what you have is at least one side. I'm not confused about the fact that both of these this is bad. The whole thing. Yeah. Get rid of it all. But by bifurcating it in terms of what the sort of fear of China, a legitimate fear, right, for the MAGA crowd, but making that the boogeyman and the big villain, they're adopting a pro-Putin stance in doing that because Donald is in there, and he released a statement today.
Yeah.
Their orange god, Lord, King, mythic, horned beast thing. Donald, he released a statement today again.
About
tripling down on backing Putin's finding over our own U.S. intelligence agencies. So at least for one side, the weaponization, this bifurcation, it is anti-American. It is anti-democratic. They've got their sights on our intelligence agencies, right, and our leaders, and are just into tearing down Congress and rule of law and destroying the electoral votes. Electoral college aside, if the states, this whole state legislature thing run by Raga right now, this is Republican Attorney General's Association, that is in there corrupting and disrupting in this very shadowy way, much like the Federalist Society does for the Supreme Court, and all the courts, all the federal courts. You have this Raga, right, which is so interesting, so close to MAGA, in there helping to craft the new legislation and all of the acts on a state level to allow states to just throw out the votes that come in, using the electors to do it, right? Like, if we don't like what the vote count is, our elector is going to go ahead and say,
we can just decide.
We'll just decide. We don't like those votes, forget it.
There's got to be some sort of probable cause, but it doesn't have to be like completely buttoned down like it was before. So just to put a button on this, so for them, a divided America is actually a real boost for China and Russia. The more divided we can be, the stronger China and Russia become globally. And all they have to do is keep fomenting this division, which they can do through Fox News or OAN or Newsmax or whatever they decide to use, the Epoch Times or, the Mooney's Church or whatever today's, weird organization that's helping this division go on. And all they had to do this is convince one side of the country, just one side, that they were the other side was going to turn it into communist China, which, clearly the Democrats are not doing. But clearly that's the fear that MAGA has. So, we need to do some re-educating on the MAGA side, because boy, when you listen to this podcast, do you have a hard time understanding the logic? There's no flow. I mean, there's nothing that you can say. They're not speaking in the same rationale way as people on the left. And I listened a few times and I was trying to be as objective as I could. And it's like, there's no factual basis to what they're thinking, but that's good. That means there's a real opportunity to reach out to them and show them the facts and show them the reality of what's going on. And it actually speaks a little bit to the whole idea of we can succeed through unifying a little bit. If we can figure out how to get rid of this division, we'll win this. The more divided we become, the more focused we are on Russia, on Russia or the GOP or on their side, on the Dems, and the more we foster this dislike of each other, the more in danger democracy is. But the more we can unite, the better it is for us.
Yeah, let's just say one thing here.
Yeah.
We don't like Russia and we don't like China.
Yes, it's good convenient. We
can
be against both.
And what we want is democracy, okay? And neither of those countries have that. They are both dictatorships. I think the reason they get it wrong is the idea of communism. I think people just have a weird idea of what that means. I think that the Republicans think it means something that it doesn't really mean.
Yeah.
Democrats think it means something. Communism in theory, the absolute theory of communism is that we should share everything we have, which is a very nice idea, except that human beings are incapable of doing that. So it's never been that. It's always been, we're going to do that eventually. And in the meantime, me and my cronies are going to be in charge of everything,
right,
and collectivize everything and nationalize everything and seize the means
right.
of production.
It's a problem because it's a state thing. It's not from the people up.
Yeah.
As much as they want to, folks that are that way wanted to frame it that way. It's that the state is going to determine what all of that is, and that's where it's just corruption. It's just corruption.
Russia and China have a very
not,
similar system.
Yeah,
nobody's calling for that.
There's no
Nobody
real
wants
communism in either
take
place.
over anything.
Communism bad.
We want capitalism. Capitalism is good. We just want we want, you know, the richest 10 people in the United States to pay more than I do in taxes. That's all we want. It's not much to ask.
That's it.
You know,
people should pay taxes.
Come on, Jeff
rich
Bezos,
people
write a
should
fucking
pay
check,
taxes.
cheap bastard.
What the hell is going on?
right.
Why aren't rich people
Taxes.
paying
Crazy.
taxes? I can't believe that. It blew my mind this week. It's like,
well, I can't believe they got the information.
Yeah, that's pretty.
The amazing thing is that they got the information.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
The amazing thing isn't that the rich people don't pay taxes. We know this, and
they're going to launch an investigation into these journalists. Bad idea. Really bad idea. They've launched one already. It's not right to go after these journalists for that leak, but it's amazing.
It's the journalists have an obligation to publish this shit. Some sycophant in the Washington Post wrote an op-ed about how, well, actually, you know, we don't want to tax them because, you know, blah, 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 blah.
There's no reason not to tax them.
So
they have so much money.
Raise the marginal tax rate. Raise the fucking marginal rate. It used to be 95% or something for all of World War II in the 50s. Yeah. During the 50s, which was the greatest economic boom in the history of this country, the top marginal tax rate for the richest, like 1% of people, was 90%, was over 90%.
For the Rockefellers,
and
yeah.
What do you know? It coincides with a period of a burgeoning middle class. It's not a fucking accident. This isn't rocket science.
No.
Do what worked before.
You know, it's interesting as well that people have been misthinking about the For the People Act as something that was just exclusively about voter suppression and race rights. But it's not. I mean, clearly, the For the People Act was designed to be a anti-dirty money in politics. It was the Anti-Citizens United Act. 2 years ago, everyone was in total favor of it, including this guy. Joe Manchin sponsored the For the People's Act that he now opposes 2 years ago. So what happened to Joe Manchin in the last couple of years that changed his mind? I mean, let's think about who it impacts. It's a very good act. And, you know, as we go, it's worthwhile just spending a minute here, if you don't mind. I can just going to go through some of the key points around the dirty money that, let me just pull it up for you in a way that you can also read it. So, you know, the one thing it does is it celebrates the idea of small donations of under $200. So the public actually having a great say in who gets funded. And then it does more than that. For every dollar that you donate or the public donates, the government kicks in 6 times that into the campaigns of the politicians, which is incredible. And it doesn't come from your tax dollars. It actually comes from a fine leveled against banks for all their civil, wrongness and all their money laundering or whatever. So that doesn't cost us any money. It's the bank's money that lands up going to fund all the budgets for these campaigns. Great idea. Like, no reason why you wouldn't support that. Then there's the Disclose Act that's part of For the People. That actually forces PACs and dark money organizations to publicly disclose their donors. Amazing idea, right? We want to know who funds these PACs. We don't get Mercers. We don't get the Federal Society. We don't get all these crazy people without knowing who funds them. Then there's the Honest Ads Act, which basically forces Facebook and Twitter to disclose the source of their political ads. Also a pretty decent idea. You know, there's a lot of ads that go through there. And then there's the ban or a limitation on political spending by government contractors, so they can't buy their way into their deals and into their contracts, and also a slowing down of foreign money into shell organizations or shell companies. I'm not quite sure how that works, but it's there. Plus a deadlock mechanism for the Federal Electoral Commission. There'll be 5 instead of 6 representatives, so there's no gridlock there. And then there's also no coordination, which has existed before, but I don't think it's been as clearly legislated that PACs and campaigns can't work together. This is a no-brainer. We got to have ACT. I mean, this is the thing that fixes everything that got into 2016, but the Senate is not going to pass it. bullshit. They have to pass this thing. They have.
Somebody's worried about their money.
Someone's worried. They're both sides.
This is just all about the money, guys.
Yes, it's all about the money.
So anyone opposed to this is afraid of what's going to happen to their money and is owned.
On both sides, because the Democrats are also receiving a lot of dirty money now. They are now the big benefactors of dirty money. So, in fact, both sides, Democrats and Republicans, need to feel the pressure of the people for the people. So, call your senators. Ask them why they're not passing this bill. What is the reason not to pass this act that is so clearly important for everybody in the continuation of democracy? There is not a single reason that Sinema or Manchin should not be passing this. This is bedrock Republican. This is about as core American as you can be. It's practically libertarian. So we got to see it happen, and it's the Anti-Citizens United Act, and it's been misrepresented as something.
This is John McCain would have loved this.
Yeah,
this is all stuff that he spent a lot of time campaigning for. By the way, just to say.
Yeah. I mean, it's really important.
But he's probably a pro-Chinese Democrat secretly, right?
Secretly.
According to the guy wearing the diaper with the gongs there.
I think you got to hear his podcast. I mean, it's really it's other level kind of stuff. It's like
I don't need to hear it.
It's really twisted. It's really twisted.
Oh my God. Well, but here's what you got to, and maybe we can transition from here. We got pirates around us. We do. We've got a lot of we got a lot of people who are in there to just stick their hands in the cookie jars and take whatever they want, and they'll use whatever bounty that they've accumulated in order to ensure that they can continue to do that. From the Cokes to to these PACs, this is all about folks that have access to vast sums of money, and God only knows how they got that money, some of them. And they don't want any more barriers to their money. So they're willing to flood politics with even more money. And it's just, this is how corruption rolls. It rolls this way, everybody. It really is all about the money. So if you start putting in, guardrails and brakes for how money can come in and corrupt, everything from individual politicians to entire pieces of legislation to elections and campaigns themselves.
To spying on the intelligence committee, to all this.
If you start putting the guardrails on the money, you're going to see the kind of thrashing that we're seeing right now and watch where the thrashing happens. Look at who's resisting this. Look at who's flailing around or making up horseshit arguments about why it can't go through or what kind of things we should all be really concerned about. You guys think this is about this, but it's really something. Look for that kind of flailing around, and you're going to find that those people they're in there for the overlords, for the pirates.
Anytime someone
we don't want to be run by pirates.
Yeah, we don't. We don't.
And we don't want the damsel in distress that apparently Joe Manchin is, right? So here's
or
I
Chuck
do want to say
Schumer
something. Or Chuck Schumer. Here's what I want to say about that, though. I want everyone. I do want to say this for folks. I want to make sure I say this as someone who does have a platform and does have a voice. Right now, there's a big push happening, I see, through social media to say, oh, what good does it matter to have a Joe Manchin or Kristen Sinema if they're just plants to thwart us? Okay. I hear that, right? What I'd love everyone to do is just put some ice cold blood in their veins for a second, cool down, and understand that having a majority means we have control over the committees. We have control over whether or not what we investigate with, and what the kind of judges we put in, from the judicial committees to the intelligence committees to the oversight committees that are looking into corruption. We don't want to lose control of that. Trust me, that's the last guardrail right now, right? The margin is so thin that if we lose that, to think only in terms of policies and only in terms of acts and say this is all that matters, and if they're not going to vote our way, then throw them out, and what does it matter? We just have Republicans running anyway. No, we have control over committees because there's a D by Manchin's name. because there's a D by Sinema's name.
Yep.
So what we need to communicate to the Republicans and what we need to communicate to those that are seeking, the anti-democratic forces seeking to throw off our democracy and really destroy us, as our president right now has been warning us is happening. We need that force to understand that we get it. We can play this game and we can say, yeah, okay, Joe Manchin, we hate him, right? He's against this shit, but he's got a D by his name. So we're going to play the game. We're going to, excuse my French, we're going to, screw you with him, right? Like we're going to use him against you, Republicans, in that we're not going to throw that guy aside unless we know we can put.
Yeah, but we got to primary every single person who's voting. I mean, there is not a chance in hell that these people should be back if they vote against this. We cannot
lose what we have. What we need to do is gain more, right? So if he's just a plug, right, because he gives us the majority of the committees, fine. We got some plugs, whatever. Next election, we're going to gain even more seats, and then he's irrelevant.
He's gone anyhow.
We have an even broader majority. We have an even broader majority. So I would just like to hear the folks that are with all the the hair on fire. Just take a beat, take a moment, and think: do you really want to lose control of those committees? Do you want to lose control over the Oversight Committee? Do you want to lose control over the Judiciary Committee? My God. Do you want to lose control over the Intelligence Community? If we focus there and they see that everyone's focused on that, I'm telling you, Mitch McConnell, he might just turn fully purple and because that's the game. They're distracting everybody with this policy stuff. The game is power, raw power.
But the policy stuff is the real gold here. I mean, this is the most popular bill you could pass. Republicans support this. Democrats support it. Any senator who votes against this thing is clearly being bought. And any senator who does vote against it needs to be turfed in the next election by the voters. So
West Virginians support it.
Yeah, everybody supports this bill. How can you not support this bill? It's like, it's clean government. Of course you want to support this bill.
But we've got to win. We have to win the seats. We have to maintain control, no matter what. 2022, if we lose control, it's a bloodbath for democracy. It is. It is.
Well, I got to tell you.
So what I would like is for everyone to just put that steely cold blood in your veins. If there's an option to this, look, Joe Manchin was at a meal with Donnie Two Scoops, when Donnie Two Scoops was actually putting 2 scoops of ice cream and nobody else. And he couldn't stop being fascinated by this sort of egg-shaped, perfectly looked like an egg that had happened with his ice cream on his plate. And he spent all of his time in this dinner where he had an opportunity with a face-to-face with the presidency, trying to learn from the folks in the kitchen how they actually manufactured an ice cream ball in the shape of an egg. That's Joe Manchin. And corrupt, of course. He's a moron.
He's super corrupt. There's no point in trying to defend him.
But he's a D. He's a D. And we're going to get some more. We're going to get some more Ds. And then he won't matter anymore. We need to make him not matter.
This bill is the thing that can get us more Ds, I think. I mean, just because it's amazing policy. Let's go out there and make sure that everybody knows how important this bill is. Let's make sure that people who support it get elected, because it's an amazing bill. And guess what? The Republicans kind of all in unison don't really want this because they are so funded by the dirty money that they can't see their way out of this. So it does turn out to be a pro-democratic party thing as well as a small d pro-democracy thing. But speaking of pirates, so let's talk about pirates.
Speaking of pirates.
Let's talk about some pirates. I got to change
some pirates.
Yes. So you are... And you couldn't hear me, but I was just saying that LB is launching an audio series called The World Beneath, and it's launching very soon. And you're going to tell us, I guess, when it's launching.
If we play it, it says it in there.
Okay.
Everyone will start to hear some radio. I think our big radio push happens on Monday.
Okay.
So on all Cumulus Radio and every rock station out there, you'll start hearing about this.
And
I'll tell you more about it once
okay. Here we go.
Next week.
Treasure. What does your mind's eye conjure when you hear that word? Treasure. Swashbuckling pirates sailing their ships across the high seas, burying their chests of gold in a secret cove, then leaving a map behind where X marks the spot? Or can you see the all-American crime lords who amassed a treasure so vast they created a second economy, buried in a network of vice, with coves of offshore accounts hiding the secrets of nation-states, and a map to find it that takes you through a wilderness of spies? That story began over a century ago when our nation's legendary mobsters, Lansky, Luciano, Capone, built an industry, an economy, a treasure that by the mid-century was worth more than General Motors, Standard Oil, Ford, General Electric, Chrysler, IBM, Mobil Oil, Texaco, and U.S. Steel combined. And, like proper pirates, they even did it with ships. Lots and lots of ships. The new podcast series, The World Beneath, is an audio landscape that tells the 100-year history behind that treasure. In Season 1, we bring you 20 epic episodes that chart a course back in time to capture the characters and moments that echo through our world today. And you'll be able to binge the entire season at once, all 20 episodes, ad-free on Apple's new podcast subscriptions. From Imperative Entertainment, this is The World Beneath, the story of mobsters and spies. Setting sail on June 28, 2021. Listen on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your shows.
Wow.
Treasure.
That's really good. Oh, here you go again.
What does your mind's eye conjure?
That's really, really good. I'm into that. That's a very, very good sound. Yes. And I love the audio landscape. It's really nice to listen to. It's really gorgeous sound. And your voice is amazing in it.
Thank you, Sam.
I'm thinking it's a little bit Wisteria Lane-ish at the beginning there. Is that, were you inspired perhaps by Wisteria Lane?
No.
Oh, okay. It's got that kind of just a little bit of, remember that from Desperate Housewives? They had that opening with the piano that was very sort of like, it reminded me a little bit of that.
Oh, good. Okay. I'll take it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Meant well.
No, it's, I really tried to return to more of an oral tradition of storytelling. I think folks that follow me maybe on here knew that I was doing these fireside chats for a long time. And I was trying to really see, okay, how do I tell a story to an audience that's not a screenplay and it's also not a novel, where it's a narration with facts and history and bringing this sort of characters alive so I could bring a world alive through just talking. And it's something that I grew up with we're sitting around a table right now that literally I grew up listening to people just tell stories and oral tradition in my family for a long time. And once I knew I could kind of do it, because I knew I was going to do this series, I was like, okay, I think I got it. And so the goal of it is for it to feel like those old radio series where it's coming alive to you with sound and audio, and there's speeches that we integrate from history, and there's characters obviously that are driving the series, and I narrate it, but there's a lot of other folks. There's some voices that come and participate as characters. So
it's very immersive.
It sounds very immersive and very much like, just sitting around. Anyone who studied War of the Worlds on, that radio program when Orson Welles did that.
I think.
Yeah. It's like, but not fantasy. It's real history. And you'll hopefully be pulled in by it.
And it's such important stuff, for people to get a really good understanding of what happened in the world of intelligence and the mob. And it's going to be amazing to hear you unpack that over 5 series. And the first 2, the first one drops
we have
on.
Season. This is the first season. It's called Treasure. So it's all about the money and what happened around the money and how it all happened and came together and how we were able to chase down the criminals of the underworld through the money, right? And what that is, right? When you hear things like, oh, they got Al Capone on taxes. Well, we're going to hear that whole story so you understand really what that means and who was involved in that, and how that's tied into sort of a trail of data points, I guess is the best way to think of it. It's just this historical points in these moments and even scandals in our history that brought us to our present moment and the present threats that we're facing. It just is about giving this grand context.
And so there's 10 episodes of that, and then there's 10 episodes of an interview. And
then 10 episodes of interviews. So all 20 episodes drop on June 28th.
Oh, wow.
If you're on Apple subscription. So that's what I've been doing. I've just been producing all this stuff so that we can do it like a streamer. Yeah. So you can binge it. And Apple's new platform, this is a whole new platform for Apple, and they launched their platform on
the 15th.
Tuesday. Yes. Yeah, on Tuesday. And so I get to be one of the series going with that, which is really
so
exciting.
Nice. It's really exciting.
It's so nice. It's so nice. But if you don't want to sign up and subscribe, I think you should do it. I think you're going to get a lot of value out of that. It's ad-free. It's great. And you can binge. You'll get 2 a week, 1 narrative and 1 interview. Or discussion. We call it the sit down.
Right.
It's a sit down. Yeah. It's a sit down. So we have a sit down with all kinds of fascinating people who know about the specifics of the world that I'm sharing with you, and some of them who lived it. So it's really
how cool is that?
It's really fascinating. Yeah, and
so others you get 1-on-1 if you don't subscribe, but if you want to get the whole thing and actually control your own summer enjoyment of these things, you want to download all 20 right away. You want to do the subscription. Do you know how much it costs?
I don't.
You don't, but people can find out by logging on.
But sign up, and I promise you, it's not going to be. It's Apple. They're doing this platform just like they have their Apple TV, and now they have this, and
it's great.
So it'll be really, and all the series on there will be really fun. It's great. So
people should go to Apple Podcasts.
Okay, yeah, I'm gonna.
No, you can.
Okay,
it's fine.
People should go to Apple Podcasts, and they should find the World Beneath and subscribe.
Go to Apple Podcast, put in the title "World Beneath," and you can subscribe to it.
Yes.
And it's also available on all your other platforms. You can do the same thing, but just subscribe, and then you'll get it all. Okay.
I'm so glad you gave us all that information because I was getting tired of answering all these questions. Or trying to answer all these questions.
I wasn't trying to be cagey. It's just, there's marketing people and it's a whole thing.
I know that's totally fine. I get it. But there were people online that's like, when's the LB series starting? I was like, I don't know.
June 28th.
June 28th, everybody.
I'm gonna go to the spa for about 3 days after June 28th.
Finally deserve to have your spa day.
Oh my God!
June 28th was the day that the Archduke was assassinated in Sarajevo and World War I started. It's not this day. And,
okay, let's listen to
No, I've heard the first episode and it's fucking so good. It's really, really good. And it's mobsters and spies, and one of the characters that I think a lot of the story is about is somebody that I had not heard of, who it turns out is super important in the history of all this stuff. So what LB has done here is layered, like as in Photoshop, layered the mobsters and the spies on top of each other and created it in this format that I think, hasn't been done before, at least that I'm aware of. And it really brings the story to the forefront in a super interesting way. And, I've only heard the first. I can't fucking wait to hear this thing. I'm really excited.
So what is the first episode about?
I'm
going to have to pay for this fucking Apple thing to hear this damn thing and binge here.
You are going to have to pay for it.
And everyone should know, and not because I was intentionally looking for it, but we do have heroes each season. And 2 of our biggest heroes, one especially, and then one sort of a subplot hero in season 1 are women.
Yeah.
I think I know which one. I know one of them is.
And so I'm writing them back in.
That's very. Oh, really? Oh, that's really interesting. You're going to bring him back in. That's amazing. And I'm also wondering what's going to happen later on tonight at your. At where are we here? Hang on a second. Down here, I want to know who's going to win in this in the basement over here. There's going to be a legendary pool game or whatever it is you're playing tonight. I'm not there, but I'm sure it'll be fun.
You're supposed to be here. I don't know where you are. Yeah, you're stuck. You're stuck.
Well, keep the camera up so I can at least see who wins. Who's the better pool player?
Oh, me.
No, of course you are. Yeah. Good luck, Greg.
My house. That's my pool table. Okay. All right.
I've got to figure something out here just to quickly get back on. There you go. That's it for the show tonight. And we'll be back on Tuesday. Tuesday's really interesting. I've got all the money behind January the 6th. I've tracked it all down.
Oh.
We're going to unpack it for everybody. We haven't spoken about Prevail's podcast today, but it was amazing. It was really good. People have to check it out. It's about Maria Butina. I was blown away. I mean, I listened to that for like a good hour today. I think it might have been longer than I wanted to listen to this to the actual series because it was so good, Greg. So people should check out your podcast, Prevail, and learn about Maria Butina's new podcast. And that's it from us. So thanks very much for joining us on Narrative Live this Friday after show. You can always check us out or donate at patreon.com/narrative. I'm so terrible at doing these things. Or subscribe on YouTube or on Apple Podcasts or other podcasts, whichever podcast service you like. And you guys have a lot of fun tonight. I hope you have a blast. And I am horribly jealous that I'm not there, but I know you guys are going to have a great time. Okay. Have a good night, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Narrative is funded by viewers like you. Support our independent journalism at patreon.com/narrative.